Hello friends, welcome into College Football Now, presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. I am your host, Tom Downey, and look, all the major FBS programs that have fired coaches or had them resign or retire or whatever have made their hires. So, barring any surprise moves during or after bowl season, the coaching carousel is pretty much over this year in college football. So with that in mind, let's grade all of the coaching hires this year, starting off with the biggest one, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, we'll give them a B as Urban Meyer retires and Ryan Day comes in. Now, Day was coveted this coaching carousel, but mostly by the Colorados of the world, the Marylands, whatever, the North Carolinas, if you want to go that route. So I give it a B. Look, I like Ryan Day a lot. I think he's going to have a lot of success with the Ohio State Buckeyes, but there is some inherent risk here, and I'll put it this way. If Notre Dame had hired Ryan Day, I probably would have given them a B as well. Now, Day has proven himself as an interim head coach earlier this year, but he doesn't have a ton of experience, and this is more of a continuation hire for the Buckeyes, which I think is a good thing, but again, we grade on a curve here. Ohio State is at the very tippy top of the college football world in terms of most desirable jobs. There really might not be a better one out there than Ohio State. At the very least, it's inside that top 5. So I like Ryan Day quite a bit, but I'm only going to give it a B because we are grading on a curve here, and Ryan Day really doesn't have that much experience, even though in the end, I do think he'll be a success for Ohio State. Now, the big question is, will he win a national title at Ohio State? That's the expectation year in and year out for the Buckeyes. If you think so, type Y for yes. If you don't think so, type N for no. I will say this, it is very, very tough to win national titles, especially when you're coaching against the Nick Sabans of the world. So I will lean more towards yes, but it's by no means a sure thing. Now, Urban Meyer was a huge loss for the Buckeyes, and in terms of Bill Snyder, there might not be a more prime example of a coach tied to his school like Bill Snyder was. He is out at Kansas State, retired after an incredibly long and successful tenure with Kansas State. Klieman comes in, and he has massive shoes to fill. Now, here's the good news. Now, I know some Kansas State fans were not happy at first, but let's not forget that Klieman right now is looking for his 4th FCS title in 5 years. All that dude does is win. Now, the problem is for K-State is that with and without Bill Snyder has been two very different stories. They've been really bad without him and surprisingly good with him. So Bill Snyder retires, a Hall of Fame career already for the former Kansas State head coach, has done a fantastic job there. His accolades have been nothing short of spectacular at Kansas State. A true legend in the game. Klieman comes in now. He does have massive shoes to fill. The hope is, of course, this is not a Ron Prince 2.0. I don't think it is. I know he's an FCS coach. All the dude does is have success and win at any level. I think hiring Chris Klieman, who, by the way, was our #1 guy on our Kansas State coaching hot seat, or Kansas State coaching candidates list, was a fantastic move for the Wildcats. I give it an A. Frankly, it's one of my favorite hires this offseason. Let's stick in the same state. Go to Kansas now, where Les Miles is your new head coach. David Beatty out. He was fired. I was surprised at the overall negative national reaction against the Les Miles hire. Yes, he is not the same guy he was in his prime at LSU, and yes, this is a really tough job, but let's not forget that we're grading on a curve here. I don't think Les Miles is really Charlie Weis 2.0. Miles is a better coach than Weis ever was. And again, it's Kansas. They're awful. Could you have really made a bad hire? We're grading on a curve here. If you're Kansas and you're getting a national title winning head coach, I think that's a success. Look, the past couple of years, you've had nothing going since Mark Mangino left. Clint Bowen, when he was the interim, was not good. Charlie Weis was a disaster. Turner Gill did not have any success either at Kansas. This is an incredibly, incredibly challenging job. It's the toughest one, I think, in all of the FBS in terms of the Power 5 programs. So what grade do you give it? A, B, C, D, or F? Look, Miles might not work out at Kansas, but here's the thing. If you win 6 games at Kansas, that's a success. So I'm happy with the move. I think it's an aggressive move for Kansas. It might not work out, but really, how much worse could it actually get for the Jayhawks? Now, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Head over to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. What that means is you put down $50, BetDSI will give you an extra 60 to bet with. Still a bunch of college football bowl games, so get on that action now. Chatsports.com/bet. promo code LIVE120. Now, while I defended the Les Miles hire, the Mack Brown hire is one I actually don't like at all. This is a very different job than Kansas. North Carolina, I actually thought was one of the better jobs available, and instead you go with a chasing the pass type hire, which typically doesn't work out. Now, I liked Mack Brown at Texas, but things very much fell apart. Now, he's made some good hires for his coaching staff, and maybe it will work out in the end, but if you're North Carolina, wouldn't you have preferred a Tony Elliott at Clemson or a Scott Satterfield than Mack Brown? I love what Mack Brown did at Texas, but this feels like the North Carolina boosters got what they wanted, and they just said, you know what, let's go back to the way things were. In college football, that typically doesn't work out with very few exceptions, but maybe Mack Brown will be one of those guys. But I was underwhelmed by the Mack Brown hire. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, A, B, C, D, or F. He can have success there, but I thought the UNC job really was one of the better outside like the non-Ohio State jobs. I thought it was the best one of those mid to mid-high Power 5 schools, and UNC, I felt like they settled for a guy that they could have gotten somebody better instead. But that's just me. All right, Maryland now. I'll give them a C because I don't really believe in Mike Locksley. I know Maryland loves him. I know he can recruit really, really well, and I know he comes from the Nick Saban School of Coaching and Rehab, but let's not forget here, folks, that in his last head coaching job, Mike Locksley was bad. He was 2-26 in 2.5, 2.75 years, or 2.33 years at New Mexico. That's not very good, and he had his own off-the-field problems there. Now, look, Maryland continues to chase more success. They're in a good area. They should be able to recruit very well. I think Locksley will do a good job of that, but your last 5 Maryland head coaches, beyond Ralph, haven't gone very well. So we'll see how things go in Maryland. I don't love the Mike Locksley hire. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. I wouldn't be surprised if I am because people are often wrong. I just don't think it was the best hire for Maryland because I'm not the biggest Mike Locksley guy. Let's go now to Louisville, and we all know the Cardinals, they really, really wanted Jeff Braun. They wanted to bring the favorite son back home. It didn't work out for them. But in terms of settling for a plan B, Scott Satterfield's a really good plan B. He was incredibly successful at Appalachian State. I think he'll be a great fit with the Louisville Cardinals. It is an A- grade for me. I think the Cardinals did a great job this year. Yes, they missed on their top target. But getting Scott Satterfield in terms of the backup options, you're going to have a tough time finding a better one. So a very quality hire in my eyes for the Louisville Cardinals. All right, we'll keep rolling through some more of these middle tier Power 5 programs here. Let's take you now to Colorado. And Colorado has gone an interesting route here. They seem to want a defensive guy, and they got one in Mel Tucker. Now, I like Mel Tucker in general. Remember, he almost got the Tennessee job. My biggest concern here is that Mel Tucker has not coached this far west before. This is a new move for him. He's mostly been an Ohio-type guy, one of those more Midwestern guys, a SEC guy. Jacksonville he was the DC and the interim head coach there as well. I think he'll have some success, but I do wonder how he'll fit out in the Pac-12. That's something I do want to see how that turns out. Although it did work out well, at least at the beginning, for guys like Jim McElwain, as Tucker, again, comes from the Nick Saban School. He is a Saban assistant and joins a long list of Saban assistant coaches that have had some success, some not success. McElwain was good before he went to Florida, then fell apart. He's now at Central Michigan, which we'll get to later on in the show. Lane Kiffin he's Lane Kiffin. Jeremy Pruitt, we'll see how that turns out. Kirby Smart has done a fantastic job. Mark D'Antonio, Jimbo Fisher, among, really, I think, the better coaches in all of the college football ranks. Will Muschamp got a second chance at South Carolina, and then, of course, Mike Locksley as well. So I think Mel Tucker and a lot of the guys that we'll go through, they all fit a very similar mold for me of, it's not a home run hire, but I do think there is going to be a chance for some success here. We'll see how that ends up turning out. All right, Georgia Tech now. Another similar, I'm intrigued by this one, and I don't quite know if it's going to work out. Now, Jeff Collins knows the area well. He's a good recruiter. I get that perspective from Georgia Tech. But when he was at Temple, he was average. He was 15-10, and I think the Tech job is a good one. Granted, there are going to be some challenges here because Tech is coming over from the triple option offense. Now, I'll ask you guys if you think Tech should still run that option offense. Give me a heart for yes and a like for no. But if you're not going to, and I don't think Collins will, there's going to be an adjustment time period. When you go from one offense to a drastically changed one, especially if it's an option offense, there's going to be an adjustment period. So I think year one for Collins might not go that well, but I'm not going to judge his entire tenure based on that. He is going to need some time. We'll see if he can be the guy to kind of revitalize that program, namely in the recruiting world. All right, Texas Tech is next up. I know a lot of people didn't want Matt Wells. They don't like those, FCS coaches that had that one big breakout year, or not FCS, the group of five coaches, excuse me. But I like Matt Wells. I think he did a great job at Utah State. Jordan Love has become a very, very promising NFL or just college football quarterback, maybe even a pro prospect. So, and I know that Cliff Kingsbury was the favorite son for a while at Texas Tech, and I know some Tech fans wanted Seth Luttrell, which I would have liked more, but I do think Matt Wells was a good hire, and I know there is some risk here, but I think Matt Wells will work out well for Texas Tech. We'll see if I end up being right or wrong. Tell you what I'm often right on, that's my bets in college football. You can get in on the action too at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code LIVE120 gets you a 120% deposit bonus. What that means is you put down $50, BetDSI will give you an extra $60 for free. Extra money. Even if you get some picks wrong, some bets wrong on bowl games, you got plenty of extra money to play with over on BetDSI, but you got to use chatsports.com/bet and promo code LIVE120. All right, let's move now to some of the group of five hires, and one of the bigger ones I think is actually Central Michigan, and they have hired Jim McElwain, firing John Bonmego, who was an alum of CMU. This is a rare name hire for a MAC school. You typically don't see these types of moves at the Mid-American level. Now, McElwain, I don't think he did a good job of coaching at Florida, and that's why it's an A-, not an A for me, but if you're Central Michigan, kind of a no-brainer, right? You got a guy that everyone knows in Jim McElwain, and from a recruiting perspective, to go into Ohio, go into Michigan, etc., I think I have a little bit more success if you're Jim McElwain coaching against, likes of the other Mid-American Conference coaches. Let's go now to Liberty, who made an interesting hire. Now, there's almost two grades here, right? Off the field, it's kind of a no-go for me. I don't want to deal with Hugh Freeze right now. He is very much tainted goods. Liberty decided that was okay. They're going to ignore his off-the-field issues. And on the field, it's a no-brainer, right? Hugh Freeze was really good at Ole Miss, did a fantastic job recruiting, had a lot of success at a program that typically hasn't had that much success. So if you're Liberty and you're only looking on the field, it makes sense, right? I think it makes a lot of sense from that perspective to bring him in, to get that hire. In terms of on the field only, I think it's actually one of the better coaching hires this carousel season. Now, I'll ask you, what was the best head coaching hire this year? Let me know in the comments section. I'll hold off on mine because I got another job that I think is, again, a lesser one, but I really, really like for the program in mind. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, we'll move now to Utah State, and this is just, I just don't like it all that much because Gary Anderson, he wasn't good at Oregon State. And I know it's Oregon State and they're bad, but this is another example, I think, where the AD was looking elsewhere and the boosters come in and the boosters say, no, we want the guy we know. And in general, boosters who are just really fans with money, they want stuff that they know. They want things they are familiar with. And Gary Anderson fits that mold at Utah State. Now, they're losing a good coach in Matt Wells. Maybe Gary Anderson returns back to his original Utah State era and some of his Wisconsin time as well. But I think this is a bit of an interesting hire for a coach that really didn't have any interest anywhere else. Gary Anderson was not an attractive candidate because of what happened at Oregon State, but we'll see how things end up turning out going forward. All right, Appalachian State, they lose Scott Satterfield, a big loss. Eli Drinkwitz, first off, great name. Absolutely great name for a college football head coach. This is the old, we're going to go with the young offensive coordinator approach. And Drinkwitz, when we go back 10 years ago, was a high school offensive coordinator. That's a pretty fast rise for any coach. So we'll see how things turn out. I'll give this a B. App State has proven themselves that they know what they're doing when it comes to coaching searches. And frankly, Drinkwitz, coming over from NC State where he was the OC, did a really good job. So we'll see how things work out, but it kind of falls into that Colorado Tech mold of we'll see. I will give them the benefit of the doubt, but there is some inherent risk here as well. One of my actual favorite hires this offseason was East Carolina. They fired Scotty Montgomery, who they never should have fired their McNeil in the first place. Now they have Mike Houston, who was absolutely fantastic at James Madison. Now remember, Charlotte nearly had hired Mike Houston. East Carolina then fires Scotty Montgomery and goes and poaches Mike Houston. This, I think, is the best coaching hire this season. Now I know it's East Carolina and it's an FCS head coach, but that's how much I think of Mike Houston. I will not be surprised if in the very near future you see Mike Houston continue to do the job jumping and work his way up the coaching ladder. We'll take you now to Western Kentucky, and I just don't get it. I know that Mike Sanford was iffy at best. That one did not work out. But again, this feels like Western Kentucky just trying to replicate a previous recent era. This feels like Western Kentucky trying to find Jeff Brom 2.0. They bring in Tyson Helton, who frankly was under fire as the Vols offensive coordinator. I don't think it makes much sense. I don't like the hire. I think if you're Western Kentucky, you could have found somebody else. We'll see if I'm wrong, but I don't think WKU made the best hire. Now, speaking of Tyson Helton, his brother Clay Helton should have been fired. In terms of the worst moves this offseason, I think this was the worst one, because if you're USC, how do you not fire Clay Helton? I think he should have been gone. I thought they could have gotten a really good head coach in there. I don't believe in Clay Helton. I didn't like the hire at the time. I thought it was kind of a settling hire for a top-tier program. I will not be surprised, folks, if we get to week 5, week 6, week 7 of the college football season and USC has not done a good job and they're struggling, if they fire Helton, maybe on the tarmac again in a classic Lane Kiffin move there, but I don't think you're going to see Clay Helton last. And if you're USC, I know you didn't want to go into a full-on rebuild, but you have run the risk now of wasting an extra year and having a wasted season again next year if you do end up firing Clay Helton. We'll move now to Temple with another one that intrigues me. There are a lot of, let's see how that turns out. I want to see if that works out well. Manny Diaz comes in as the Temple DC, and you want to go way, way back, all the way back to the Texas days for Manny Diaz. He was the next defensive coordinator. He was the next big guy to take that step forward. He was supposed to be the next Brent Venables, or I guess the original Brent Venables. Didn't really work out, and he's rehabbed his stock since then at Miami in particular, where he's coming from right now. So let's see how things go in Temple. I think he can recruit. I think this could be a good hire in the end for the Owls. All right, folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. What that means is you put down $50, they're going to give you $60 for free. You put down $100, they're going to give you $120. Put down $500 to bet with on BetDSI, they will give you $600 extra bonus money to play with, but you got to use that promo code LIVE120 at chatsports.com/bet. All right, time now for some action. How about Bowling Green? Mike Jinks, no surprise, he is gone. Scott Loeffler comes in. Now, he was not the best OC at Auburn, and I know Auburn fans feel the same way, but he was good at Virginia Tech, good at Boston College, and knows the Ohio area. That's a big deal for these MAC schools, where you can almost, not quite, but you can come pretty close to just recruiting the Ohio area. It is a deep, talent-rich state for football. We'll see how Scott works out, but I think it's a solid hire for Bowling Green. I think it'll work out in the end. Granted, not much worse Bowling Green could do, because Mike Jinks did not work out very well. Let's move now to Akron, who fell apart this year under Terry Bowden. Yeah, that Terry Bowden. Now, Tom Arth is an interesting hire, and I'll approach it as two different ways. There are almost two different Tom Arth hires here. The first off was Charlotte Tom Arth, where he just wasn't all that great. He was average at best, more like mediocre, didn't have the most success ever. But at John Carroll, which I think is the main reason for this hire, he was really good. Very successful at a much smaller program in John Carroll. Now he goes to Akron, so it's kind of a homecoming there for Tom Arth. I was very much surprised by this hire. I thought if you were Akron, shouldn't you just gone with like an Ohio State assistant coach or an OC or something? They went small school. I think they really wanted head coach experience, and they have that there with Tom Arth. All right, let's go to Texas State. And again, I think one of the better hires this season. Jake Spavital comes in over from West Virginia where he was the OC, but plenty of ties to the Texas area. When the Texas State job first came open, it seemed like Spavital was one of the top targets. He's a logical fit. He makes sense. Withers did not fare well. The offensive mind of Spavital should be a good fit for Texas State. He knows the area well enough to recruit. Granted, you're not going to compete against most of the Texas major programs, but there's enough talent there that if you can identify it and bring it in, you can have success. And Texas State, I know it's Texas State, but they should be able to have more success in the Sun Belt than they've had the past couple years under Everett Withers. All right, folks, if you want something to add to your Christmas list, how about a Mizzen and Main shirt? These are the best damn dress shirts out there. Comfortable.af is the site, and trust me, you are not going to find a more comfortable shirt, dress or otherwise, than a Mizzen and Main shirt. Go check them out, www.comfortable.af, and trust me, guys, it's the best dress shirt out there. I sleep in these. That's how comfortable these shirts make me. So again, comfortable.af is the site. All right, we'll take you now to a couple other hires here. How about UMass? Now, I'm grading heavily on a curve here because Walt Bell, the FSU OC, I'm not intrigued by that at all. He was at Maryland for a little bit. At Ark State, he was okay, I guess. But here's the thing. Who actually wants the UMass job? This is one of the worst jobs in all of college football. Like, you are going to have a tough time recruiting. You're UMass. You're an FBS independent. Frankly, you're almost just a high-end FCS program. That's kind of what UMass is. And Mark Whipple returned to UMass, had some brief success, but it wasn't as good as the first time around. So I just don't think it would have been the best route there in the end for UMass. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Walt Bell was a sleeping, coaching hot prospect going forward. But UMass, good luck there, Walt Bell, because that's a tough job to actually win in. All right, Charlotte 49ers. They hire Will Healy. Now remember, they really wanted to get Mike Houston, the James Madison coach. That they had a deal set up, and then it kind of fell apart, I think, in large part because Mike Houston wanted that East Carolina job. They settled on Will Healy, who was good. He was the FCS Coach of the Year in 2017, did a very, very good job at Austin Peay. So you do have to settle for your second best target there, but I think getting in Will Healy is still a very quality hire there for Charlotte. We'll see if they can make some moves here in Conference USA. All right, let's go through now the CFB coaching hires. We'll go full screen here. Ryan Day, he gets a B from Ohio State. Again, good hire. I like it, but there is some risk here. And if you're Ohio State, typically you would go find somebody else, but still a good hire for OSU. Don't get me wrong there. I think they're going to have a lot of success. Love the Chris Klieman hire for Kansas State. I give that one an easy A. Les Miles, I was surprised by the negative national reaction to it. I thought it was a good move because you're Kansas. Again, we're grading on a curve here. Kansas is not a good job. Few teams or coaches wanted that gig. To get Les Miles, a national title-winning head coach, that's a good move, even if it doesn't work out. Mack Brown, though, I feel differently. I think the UNC job, vastly superior to the Kansas gig. You can have a lot of success there. We saw some with Larry Fedora. If you're Mack Brown, that's not the route I would have gone there. I think they could have had a better hire. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think with Mack Brown, it's just kind of an underwhelming move. Mike Locksley, again, I feel underwhelmed there. I know Maryland loves him. It's a return for him a little bit. I know he's from the Nick Saban coaching tree, but he was bad at New Mexico. Let's see how much he's actually learned. All right, some more Power 5 jobs. Scott Satterfield. Look, let's not kid ourselves. We know that was the backup plan for Louisville. That's a good backup plan. I prefer that one by far to the North Carolina hire of Mack Brown. All right, Mel Tucker and Jeff Collins, very similar hires for me where I'm highly intrigued by them. Because at Colorado, I like Mel Tucker, but he's never been past Mississippi River as a coach. Jeff Collins, meanwhile, knows the area well, has coached at GT, but the other issue is he wasn't that great at Temple. Matt Wells, I like that one. Maybe the fit's a little bit unusual, but I think it'll work out. Jim McElwain, not great at Florida, but it's a name hire for Central Michigan. And if you're Central Michigan, again, grading on a curve, maybe just go for the big name hire and see if it works out in the end. Hugh Freeze, look, off field, we know the issues there. On field, I like it. That's fun for Liberty, a really good coach there who can recruit. Granted, it'll be a tougher recruiting sell than Ole Miss was, but he won big at Ole Miss. That's an A hire for me. Utah State, I don't like the hire of Gary Anderson. I don't think that made the most sense for them. I thought that they could have found someone better. It seemed like the Boosters got what they wanted there in the end. I just don't think that was the best hire. Eli Drinkwitz now at App State, a young coach there. See how it turns out. I think there's some upside for sure. 10 years ago, he was a high school OC. I love the Mike Houston hire, by the way, my favorite one this offseason. A great hire for ECU. I think he's going to have immediate success and quickly, and then he's going to leap for a bigger job in the very near future. Tyson Helton, okay. I mean, when you get a chance to hire, I think at best, an average SEC OC, because he coached under Jeff Brom, you have to do it, right? And it didn't make much sense to me. Maybe he'll end up, bringing Clay Helton if Clay Helton gets fired down the road at USC. Manny, Diaz, Scott Loeffler, formerly highly touted coordinators who had their stocks take a hit, but have rehabbed them of late. Tom Arth at Akron, by the way, I misspoke earlier. I think I said Charlotte for Tom Arth. He was actually at Chattanooga. So he was a Chattanooga head coach there. That's my mistake there. 6-5 this year at Chattanooga, 3-8 in year one, but a lot of success at John Carroll, leading them to the D3 finals, all the way up to the semifinals as well, a 12-2 year there. So my bad, Akron fans, I misspoke on Tom Arth. Another good hire, Jake Spavital at Texas State, excuse me. I like the hire there, a logical fit, logical target, a good move there by Texas State. Walt Bell at UMass, okay, I don't think anyone wanted the UMass job. Well, Walt Bell is not an intriguing candidate to me, but you got to hire somebody. We'll see how that one turns out. And then Will Healy, a good hire for Charlotte, who did miss out on their top coach target, and that was Mike Houston, who they almost had to deal with, and then that fell apart once the ECU job came open. So, folks, question for you then. What was the worst head coaching hire this year? Let me know in the comment section. I will honorable mention USC not firing Clay Helton. And then beyond that, look, I don't really like the Mack Brown hire. I thought they could have done better. And frankly, Western Kentucky, I wasn't all that impressed by hiring Tyson Helton, who, again, there had been some buzz about him being on the hot seat at Tennessee as their OC. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section.